All right, let's move on now to our next story. The president of the Zambian opposition party, Green Party, has expressed doubts in the government's ability to recruit 30,000 teachers this year. Now, recently, the Ministry of Education disclosed that it will only embark on the recruitment of 30,000 teachers after the completion of about 115 stalled school infrastructure projects in the country.
The Green Party president, Peter Sinkamba, said that the contradicting statements from the government clearly show that the pronouncement to recruit teachers was merely political rhetoric, and also saying that government does not have adequate resources to recruit such a huge number of workers, and that this decision will demoralize the unemployed youth who were promised jobs this year. Green Party President Peter Sinkamba joins us now live from Zambia. Many thanks for joining, Mr. Peter. Why do you believe that the government's announcement might be politically rhetoric?
Well, thank you very much for having me on this program this morning. We think that it is mere political rhetoric because of the facts on the ground. You recall that the Minister of Finance presented the budget for 2022 sometime in September, October last year, sorry. And in that budget, there was an allocation of 18.1 billion kwacha for the education sector. And out of that, there was 1.7 billion, which was allocated for recruitment of teachers, 30,000 of them. And then an additional 694.3 million kwacha was allocated for construction and the completion of schools. So these two figures were mutually exclusive. The figure of 694 was for schools in terms of construction and completing the ones which were still under construction. And the $1.7 billion, kwacha, which was set aside for education, was for recruitment of teachers. Now, to come and change goalposts today, after Parliament has already allocated and the appropriation bill has been approved, is now law that 30,000 must be recruited, and the money already set aside, and then they change benchmarks to say, no, we are first going to construct schools. I think it is just political rhetoric. They did not mean what they were saying, and all these numbers were just meant to try and appease the Zambian people without being very, very committed to the cause. Otherwise, as far as we are concerned ourselves, since Parliament has allocated already 1.7 billion kwacha for the recruitment of 30,000 teachers, this must be done because it's law. And you know, our Public Finance Management Act is very clear. If money is allocated for one particular activity, you cannot use that money for anything else again. That becomes misapplication of resources, and it's a criminal offense. So really, we don't understand the whole rationale or logic of wanting to change goalposts at this point in time.
Well, the government also announced recently that payment of bursaries, which will be handled at the provincial level, that this will be actually handled at the provincial level. But what do you make of this? First of all, let's ask.
Already there are issues because almost 792 million kwacha was allocated for constituency development fund, and out of which each constituency was given 25.7 million kwacha as the allocation. Out of that, some amount was meant for education, and because of what has happened already now, people were expecting that this money would have been released in January. So government has changed goalposts again. They're saying, no, they're going to release in bits and pieces. Now, schools start in January. In fact, the opening for all schools was 24th of January. And that money was not available. So when is it going to be available to learners? Because as a condition to go into some of these schools, you need to be you need to pay your fees. So already it has created a lot of confusion because there was no planning really on how to go about this. Because really money meant for tuition should have been released maybe the first week of January so that the learners could have accessed that money and are able to pay as soon as they report in schools, because condition is that as you report, you must pay. So most constituencies, there's no money which is available for tuition, and then this whole thing, so-called free education, is just some rhetoric.
Right. Now, Mr. Peter, I mean, the government has not come out to say they will not recruit the 30,000 teachers. Reports reaching us says that the time for the recruitment has been shifted by 3 months. But you were saying that they've changed goalposts. Does the Green Party have a better plan at this point?
Well, for us, we had our own plan for education. You know, in terms of resources, I think the biggest problem why they're even shifting goalposts today to say, no, we can only recruit after 3 months, and we're here to see whether that is going to happen, is because we have a very
I think we have some network glitch right there. Okay.
Economic collected by ZRA for you to be able to pay whatever allocations there are. So for us, we had a plan to legalize cultivation of cannabis for medicinal and industrial purposes, which was going to bring in $36 billion into the economy. And out of that, we had allocated $7 billion towards education sector. So for us, it was very clear that in the second year, after having a formed government, we would have cultivated cannabis for medicinal and industrial purposes, raise sufficient resources to be able to finance what we're calling fee-free education, not free education, but fee-free. Okay, because there's no free education anywhere in the world. Someone somewhere must pay for it. Either the taxpayer must pay for it, or a charity must pay for it, or parents must pay for it. So there is no free education. And what we proposed ourselves was fee-free education, which was going to be financed largely by revenue from cannabis and the industrial hemp. And that way, we wouldn't have any challenges of where to get the money from. So right now, government has come up with all these fancy ideas of what they're calling free education, and they don't know where to get the money from. And this is the problem now. So they're now shifting goalposts because there is no money in the economy.
All right. I'm sure the Zambian government is watching and listening to the demands of the people. But thank you so much, Peter Sinkamba, the Green Party president. We appreciate your time on Breakfast Central.